Welcome to Game and Grains, the whiskey gaming channel. I'm your player one, Richard. In today's episode, I'm going to be taking a look at how beer barrels, specifically Goose Island Stout, can influence the flavors on whiskey. So, grab your controllers, pour yourself a dram, and let's get into it. A few weeks ago, I did a couple of videos that featured Goose Island's seasonal Bourbon County Stout beers. These are beers that have been aged in ex-bourbon barrels from places like Bardstown and Heaven Hill. My good friend Randall over at Off Topic Whiskey suggested doing a comparison between the beer and the whiskey that was finished in those Goose Island barrels. So that's what we're going to do today. I have two different whiskeys, one being Bardstown Goose Island Collab, and the second is the Virginia Distilling Company Goose Island collaboration. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a comparison if we didn't actually try that Goose Island Bourbon County Imperial Stout beer. So we're going to start off first with the two whiskeys. Now, if you are unfamiliar with an Imperial Stout, they tend to be very thick and rich and are very chocolate forward. Dark chocolate, even like a coffee type note on them, which plays well with certain types of whiskey. So I have my two Glens over here, and I'm going to go ahead and pour them in the glass. Now, as I'm doing so, I do want to say thank you to Randall, my friend over at Off Topic Whiskey. He was kind enough to hand deliver me this sample from the Virginia Distilling Company Goose Island Collab. Now on here he does have some facts. It is the 2025 edition. It comes in at 118 proof and it is a single barrel. Next I have the Bardstown Goose Island collaboration. Now my wife and I picked this up actually at Bardstown several years ago. I believe that they no longer make this collaboration. You might be able to find it in stores. However, I'm not sure exactly what stores would carry them. Now, this one has a very interesting mash bill. This is comprised of three different mash bills. The first is from Kentucky. It makes up 56% of this whiskey, 7 years, and has a mash bill of 53% corn, 26% rye, and 21% malted barley. So that high malted barley is going to let me know that this is going to play very well to those chocolate notes that we're going to get out of that Imperial Stout. The second of the blend is 26%, also a Kentucky whiskey, 6 years. Similar mash bill is corn, 53%, 26% rye, and 21% malted barley. Chances are those are probably from the same distillery. One is just at a slightly higher age. Lastly, the final 18% of this blend is also from Kentucky, 9-year, slightly different mash bill, 78% corn, 13% rye, and 9% malted barley. So like I shared before, this high malted barley is probably going to play very well with the notes that we're going to get off of this Imperial Stout. I'm going to go ahead and just pour this out as well, just to have it off the side. And we'll really dive into this stout in a minute. So first and foremost, if you're not familiar with the Virginia Distilling Company, they make American single malt, which again, an American single malt is just usually only malted barley. So again, high malted barley, you're going to get lots of notes that taste similar to chocolate, to coffee. With Virginia Distilling Company, I tend to get more fruit notes. I do have several of their other bottles here in the house, but this is the Goose Island one. So let's get in on the nose. And so right away, I'm hit with just that chocolate, almost an oaty note on it. a faint hint of honey, and then just the faintest hint of citrus on the nose. So let's get in on the taste and see if we can pick up any of that barrel influence from the Goose Island barrel. Cheers. So typically, in my experience with Virginia Distilling Company, their single malts lean a little bit more towards the fruitier side. Almost remind me of like a Scotch. This, when I think of an American single malt, this is what I envision. So I feel like that stout really helps to push that light chocolate note that is there. A lot of sweetness, almost like a honey. You do get the slightest hint of that citrus, but like I had shared before, an oat honey nut Cheerios, maybe not to that extreme. A slight chocolate note with a slight hint of citrus. This smells absolutely amazing. So now that I've had this on my palate, I am getting on the nose, like I had described, that honey nut Cheerios that is there. Just light and refreshing with that chocolate note. One more. That is delicious. Very mild, especially for being 118 proof. No burn. Just coats the tongue. It's not very heavy. Lately, I've been drinking a lot of whiskeys that just kind of dry out the tongue. I believe last week's episode we looked at Founding Fox, which was aged in a Cabernet Sauvignon barrel. That was very drying. This does not have that similar effect. All right, moving right along into the Bardstown. So Virginia Distilling Company plays very well with that Imperial Stout. Bardstown, since we do have that mixed blend of mash bills, I'm expecting to get a little bit more caramel and vanilla because of that corn. Like I said, you have 53%, 78%. So high percentages as far as this bourbon blend goes. Still expect to get some of those chocolate notes because you do have that high malted barley ratio in each one of those mash bills added on to being finished in that Goose Island cask. So let's get in on the nose. So you can tell a much darker color. I would imagine that this Virginia Distilling Company is probably a younger whiskey, but again, you have a single malt or a single grain versus a 3-grain mash bill here. So in on the nose, very different. This one is just, like I said, an American single malt. You get that oat, you get honey, you get chocolate. This one is very subdued. Swirl it around and maybe I can get some more notes off this. So there is a vanilla, a slight oaty, or maybe like an almond, and then maybe a little bit of chocolate there on the end. So let's get it on the taste. Cheers. As you would expect, very different. Sweetness is what you get right off the bat on this. So I do get the vanilla. I am getting that definite stout influence. So it is, for lack of a better word, like a nutty flavor. There is that little presence of that chocolate, um, but it's sweetness, a slight oakiness, and then you get that nuttiness on the palate as well. Now, one thing that I didn't do, and I have water over here because I wanted to do this in between, was I was going to rinse my palate. So as Randall over at Off Topic Whiskey always says, drink water. So we'll see if that helps cleanse the palate a little bit. Let's go back in on the Bardstown. So same nose. Now having cleansed my palate with water, this almost sings like an American single malt. So many words. So lots of chocolate. That definite wood influence. There's that nuttiness that's there. That seems to be more at the forefront than the sweetness that I had from the first taste. So I don't know if going from the American single malt over to the blended bourbon made it where it subdued some of those other flavors and let that vanilla and sweet flavors come through, or what. But definitely getting more of what I would consider to be an American single malt on this as well. Okay, so every sip is different. That one, again, that sweetness came back. Now that it's had time to sit on my tongue, it's a little bit drier compared to the Virginia Distilling Company. But both of these lend themselves well to that imperial stout beer. Because of that high malted barley, it really just accentuates, hopefully that's the right word, the flavors that are within each of these. Now, this is not a standard mash bill blend, I think, for Bardstown. Again, I'm sure, well, they source their whiskey, so. But if you're an American single malt fan, this might be something that you want to pick up. It definitely plays well with the barley and those notes that you get from the Imperial Stout. I feel like I'm rambling. That's all right. So both of these are great. Let's go in on the beer and see if a bourbon aged beer, if we'll get some of the similar things. So I would expect to get some sweetness off of this Imperial Stout since it was aged in a bourbon barrel. So I'm going to cleanse the palate. Now, I don't have any more of the other beers. I've already drank those, but I do have this Imperial Stout. So let's get in on the nose. So right off the bat, this is a lot sweeter than some of the other stout beers that I've had. Chocolate. I do get some of that oaty notes to it as well. And a light coffee. So on the taste, cheers. So this is a lot sweeter than I remember. Very thick, very viscous. It does have a lighter, let's see, I think it's like 14 is the ABV on it, 14.5, something like that. 14.8. Very rich, very heavy, very viscous, but it's sweet. It's almost like, kind of reminds me a little bit like a milkshake. You definitely get those chocolate notes, vanilla. You definitely get the espresso that's on here. Again, if you've ever had a stout beer, it's not something that you just chug. It's something that you enjoy throughout the evening. So, but I do feel like some of the sweetness is coming, or is definitely playing off of being in those bourbon casks. Again, having had stout beer before, this one's definitely sweeter than others that I've had before. One more time, it's on the taste just because. Oh yeah, just sweetness, chocolate, almost like there's a raisin, just a very faint raisin or date note that is there, but just chocolate, um, vanilla, just all around goodness. Again, it reminds me a little bit of like a milkshake. Um, if that's a little bit off-putting, just know that this is good, and if you can find it, definitely worth trying. So I'm all spread out over here, but again, Goose Island barrels that were used to age whiskey, whiskey barrels used to age imperial stout, all around just phenomenal. That barley plays well with the stout, and the sweetness from these ex-bourbon barrels plays really good with the stout beer. So, all right, a little bit longer video than what I typically would do, but I certainly appreciate you sticking until the end. This one was fun. As of shooting this video, I have exceeded my 100 subscriber goal. I'm probably going to post a video sometime soon about what you can look forward to with our 100 subscriber celebration. It probably won't be anytime this month. If it is, it's going to be later towards the end. I have some other family events that are already scheduled that will be taking up a lot of my time for the rest of this month, but we will definitely make it happen. So, all right, I certainly appreciate you sticking to the end. Make sure you hit that like button. If you're not already subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. If you've ever had a Goose Island collab whiskey, let me know down in the description, or excuse me, in the comments below. All right, guys, I'm your favorite player, One Richard. Have a good one.